Now this card is a Meerkat card, which is very popular, and I know my kids really love them. And we've got a lovely little sort of mechanism here, which is a floating layer that comes up and allows the meerkat to bob up and down out of his little burrow there. And that's where his burrow is going to be, and this is where he's going to pop in and out. That's quite a simple card. It just works on what we call floating layers, and that's going to come up as a floating layer, then pull over, and it's that pulling over movement as we open and close the page that will create the bobbing meerkat there. So let's start by looking at some of the mechanisms, and they're fairly straightforward. We've got three main parts here, and these are just going to create the lift for our meerkat and form part of the floating layer. A simple one here, two fold lines on that square there. Now this one comes with a dire warning. There's only one fold line on here. The other line, the light grey line, is a guideline. If you score that, there's a strong possibility that your meerkat will not bob up and down, or he will intermittently bob up and down, or possibly just do nothing. It's that dire. So warning, 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 that is a guideline only, that line there. Okay, and then we've got this one here, which we've got a grayed in area. That's for gluing only. That's just to show you do not glue beyond that line. And this actually creates the lift, and then onto that we'll place this mechanism, which is the arm to stick the meerkat on, and that will swing in and out and give the appearance of him bobbing up and down. Okay, so it's all fairly straightforward. What we need to do now is just start to glue all of this into position. And it's not particularly tricky, but it does need a little bit of care and attention, so I'm going to run through with you. The first one I'm going to use is this, what I call my sort of zigzag fold here. And that's going to go onto this position here, and it has to be covered by the rock. Now there's no guidelines. What I simply do is pop that on there. Now while you're doing that, this part of the rock has to be exactly on the halfway line there. So if we put that to there and just rest that at the bottom, if you just take a sort of a visual clue and say, well, if that's there and I can't see any of the white, then that's absolutely fine, and that's where that part can go, because we've got to allow again a bit of room for this other mechanism with our guideline here, which is going to be sticking down. Okay, so what we're going to do is glue that part and then that part, which is going to stick on. Now as that's in position, I would suggest we just go ahead and glue these. So some glue down onto there and just pop that down, and then glue onto that part, onto the top, and nothing in the middle. Now this will sit in our center line here, so we can, if you want to, just lift it up a bit just to rest that into the edge there, and you know that that's right. Then that lays flat, and this can come over. Make sure that's level. In fact, I'm going to just line it up with the bottom of the page here. There's a little bit of forgiving in this mechanism, but it's nice to get it right. And there we go. That's our first fold, because as we open, it's going to come over like that and pull over, and that will create our fold on the card. But there we go. So that's the first one in position. Now the next one to do is this one with the dire warning. Okay, so that's got our line in there, and that's a guideline, and I'll show you how we fit that one now. Let's fold that over, and I'm just going to pull that back a little bit so you can see it. What's going to happen now is this one is going to have that larger area glued there, then that guideline lines up with the middle, and then this part, the flap, will glue down onto the page there, so that will all come over when that's in its furthest position. Okay, let's pop some glue onto that. So the larger area here is going to go on to the back part, so we're going to lift that up. Remember that grey line is our center line, not a fold line, and that's our warning there. Just nice and perpendicular to that point. And remember, this has to be fully over as it glues, so that should be in the crease of the card as well. You can see that all lines up nicely. And there we go, and that's like that. And now our next piece here is just going to glue down into position like so. So we can fold that back. Again, making sure it's near the crease. Take care with that. I would normally put a protective piece of paper underneath. And that now goes down like so. Make sure that's perpendicular. Now this isn't going to slide backwards or forwards or anything yet until you come to open it. Now just check there's no glue stuck there, and let me just show you. Can you see how that mechanism works now? So for this next mechanism, 2 parts to glue, the grey area here and then that tab which goes on the back, the part of the glue there, and that's now going to just fit like so. I'm just going to fold that out of the way. That's going to fit there so we can see, and we have to just cover that mechanism like so, and when that's in position we're fine. So what I can do now is just pop that over there like that, and again I would recommend perhaps a little bit of paper just for safety's sake, really, just to glue that so it doesn't go everywhere. And we'll just remove that, and of course I've gone and moved that, but just before it goes down I just need to check that that isn't going to show, and I think we're okay there. So let's just fold that out the way, and again I can just line this up a few millimeters from the base. That gives me a nice sort of square there, and then down that goes. Just double check before I finally pop it in, and that's okay. You could, if you wanted to, just slice a bit of the corner off, but that's okay. That's down, and then what we do is glue that part, and that will stick to the card here. Remember, it's all lying flat in that central position. So let's just, again, for safety's sake, pop a piece of card under there and just put some glue there, and that'll be ready to go down. Now we also have, while this sort of mechanism is open, it might be a good time to pop this in, and that just glues in and sits there just above. See, there's a grey line, that's to say it must just sit above there. So why don't we just glue that and make sure it doesn't go beyond there. Don't glue beyond that grey line. In fact, I would just sort of go through, well, allow a couple of millimeters below that. Can we see how that just slots into those fold lines there? Glue to about there. You don't want anything sticking out if you can help it. And then this will just come over, line up on there. And what we've got is our mechanism as we open and close, and then this will need just sorting out to get it to go in the right angle as you open and close it. Can I just show you here? Whoops, let's get that onto the camera. Let me just show you here now, as this opens and closes, that's the angle it needs to be. So it'll need some sort of coercion, and then it should just start to slide open and closed like so. So once we've got that, this cheeky chappie's ready to go on. Now he's just going to rest on that arm, and this again is a little bit of trial and error. What I sometimes suggest, I'm going to use my glue pen here and just lightly tack it down. Just put a little bit of glue on him about there. Sometimes something like a glue stick is good, which allows you to reposition and gives you a little bit of time. Actually, the ideal thing would have been to actually glue the arm a little bit so you don't get it sticking where it shouldn't go. But now what we've got to do is just work out where he can disappear. Let me just show you where he disappears and then comes on up like so. Now I got that right first time, lucky me. But as a rough rule of thumb, let me just peel this back. Can you see what I tend to do? I've just got him sitting against that mechanism there, and his arm bottom part of his arm, just as it, or elbow, just lines up with the grey there. I find that, roughly works, if you can see that. So we've got our mechanism here, lift mechanism. You can see the twist of his elbow there, and that just kind of lines up with the grey line, just roughly. And with the page open, he's fully upright, and then as we close it, he disappears behind the rock and then bobs out. There we go, that's our meerkat card. A really good fun one, this one. I think well loved by young and old. Who can't but fail to love these creatures? Ever since I was a little boy, I've been fascinated by Africa, and I've always been fascinated by the meerkats, even though I was a little boy. So it's something which is personally I've been very fond of for many years, and it was a great opportunity, as my kids now have likewise seem to have taken to them, to create a card like this. Again, great for all ages, male or female, really doesn't matter. Good fun card. Fairly straightforward to do, but follow those instructions. You may have to look through a couple of times. Point to note, the dire warning on the fold lines, and also when you stick this down, at the start you think, well, nothing happens. It only happens as you turn the card, and we create this fold like this. So it's very easy to think, oops, I've glued it wrong, nothing's happening. It should happen as you open and close it. Follow everything on the video tutorial here, and I think you'll be absolutely fine, and you'll also have made yourself a really fantastic card.